Hello there, this is Stormdog, and today I'd like to take a shallow dive into the game Operation Thunderstorm. Technically, it is known as Mortyr Operation Thunderstorm. The Mortyr series eventually became a title that could slap onto a game that fit the genre, but not always the storyline, depending what market they wanted to sell it in. The first Mortyr game is Mortyr 2093-1944, but often just sold as Mortyr. It was about the son of a scientist sent back in time to World War II and had levels set in that war and the future. It came out in 1999, and you can tell by the graphics. In this timeline, the Nazis had won the war and taken over the world. Throughout the video, you will see a lot of plot elements mirror the Wolfenstein games. Mortyr is the main character's last name. You play the son of a German general, not sure if he's a member of the Nazi Party, and your father believes the Nazi Party is about to cause the apocalypse. You are sent back in time to stop the Nazis from winning in Mortyr 1. The game was originally produced by Interactive Magic, but despite high hopes for the game, it receives unfavorable reviews. Interactive Magic sold the group developing Mortyr to Ubisoft, but Ubisoft wanted nothing to do with it. It was eventually released by HD Interactive. Its development and release journey was a bit of a mess. The second Mortyr game, Mortyr 2, was released in 2005. It was seemingly developed by Mirage Interactive, a group often credited with developing the first game, though it's more complicated than that. Either way, it dropped the sci-fi elements and went straight World War II shooter, albeit badly. You play Sven Mortyr. This time, you are just trying to stop the Nazis from building a bigger, better rocket. The first level leads you into believing it will be self-focused, and then all the enemies become the enemies from Far Cry 1, before that fan finally patched that bug. It's a terrible game. It tries to add a lot of mechanics, and everything is not awesome. Mortyr 3 is also called Battlestrike, Force of Resistance, depending on where you buy it. The Battlestrike name became another title you could slap on any World War II low-budget FPS and sell as the next installment depending what ruse would get you the most sales in that country. Even less information exists on this game than the previously mentioned ones. Now, you are a British commando fighting the Nazis, and they have given up on making you related to the Mortyr protagonists of the first two games. It came out in 2007, and you can probably find it as abandonware and have a much better time with it than the first two Mortyr games. Somehow, Operation Thunderstorm is the fourth Mortyr game, but not a Battlestrike game. Somehow, the City Interactive Group are now credited with developing and producing the game. Don't ask me any details, this rabbit hole has left me confused. It's like the MCU, have fun and ignore all the gaping plot holes. City Interactive, or CI, has become famous for budget FPS games. I first encountered them with Alien Rage and really enjoyed it. It's definitely not a work of art, but it's fun. Most of their games could be described that way. They have slightly redeemed themselves lately with the Sniper Ghost Warrior series, but those have their bugs as well. Honestly though, how often anymore does the AAA industry not disappoint us with bugs, broken servers, and microtransactions? Yet, we trust them because of their track record. Even now though, some of these major dev companies have already killed relations with their fans due to greedy business practices, like the aforementioned Ubisoft. Anyway, the game runs on the same engine as the Fear games, the Jupiter EX engine. This does lead to some collision issues with stairs and physical objects in the environment, but maybe that was a frame rate issue on my part. The environments are not bad and feel realistic to what they are supposed to be portraying. The audio design of these areas is also good for this level of game. You can shoot objects and they actually break, unlike much of the AAA COD series today, Call of Duty. You can shoot walls and get some satisfying surface destruction. There is even some really good ragdolling with enemies. Bring back ragdolling devs. There are fun little combat encounters with enemies dodging or diving over surfaces and cover. I enjoyed the realistic feeling of the levels, but there is no point exploring around. There is nothing extra in this game. It is a very lean game. There is about 4 to 5 guns in the whole game. There is a useless knife, a handgun, 2 SMGs, and 2 rifles. That's it. They work decently well, and the pistol was surprisingly useful. Not quite Halo 1 levels. There were quite a few times where it felt like the bullet was actually hitting up and to the right of my crosshairs, but maybe that's another frame rate issue. Unfortunately, they did patch out blood and Nazi imagery in most online store versions. There is a fan patch to restore this. Something wonderfully classic about shooting Nazis or even communists if you get the chance. There is an issue where the game won't start. This is due to the intro videos being in some weird format. I downloaded a codec to play them and then it worked fine. Many of the Synergy Interactive games around this time period, 2008 or so, have this common issue. Also, you will have to mess with the config file to increase the FOV. The story is enjoyable as you play as a British intelligence agent, not named Mortyr as far as I could tell. In 1942, you go behind enemy lines to kill top-level Nazi officials, and you really do, getting to kill Himmler, Goebbels, and Göring by the end. They are no harder to kill than the average soldier, but it's about the journey. Along the way, you destroy their new prototype rocket and have some other nice little set pieces. It's a fun shooter with a good pace and satisfying encounters if you are used to classic FPSs. However, it is very short. I finished the game in about 2.5 hours. There is multiplayer, but it's long dead, and why would I choose this game to sink my meager multiplayer time into anyway? Don't mention Fortnite. I bought the game on sale for roughly $2 to $3 American. That's not a bad price, but it is a very short game for an FPS even, and not exactly new or completely polished. I just can't see myself recommending someone to pick it up. I saw one reviewer claim that it took them over 5 hours. I just don't see how. There's not even anything to explore. It's not completely linear, but it's pretty close. You could probably find it on some of those abandonware or old game sites for download. Don't argue with me if they're enforcing the copyright still or not. I don't care. Devs literally steal games or claim them and then sell them to the consumer, and you're going to defend them? One of the Area 51 games was sold for years on Steam before someone realized it wasn't the actual devs, just a pirate. Battleborn single-player and single-player instant action modes can't even be played now due to always online service. Sure, not a great game, but still. Ubisoft not only just delisted a bunch of their games, but made them unplayable even if you already own them. How often do we hear about terrible, unethical business practices and employee treatment coming out of these companies? What about remasters being forced down your throat despite it destroying mod support, and the company delisting the originals, which actually worked? They did it with Skyrim, they did it with GTA. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The real employees were never going to see that money anyway. If you disagree, okay, consumer, go back to playing with your Funko Pops.
Stop! He's already dead!
Look, if you care so much, why don't you check out all these awesome indie devs that actually need the money? Start by checking out Reload Magazine's Twitter account. Heck, go over to itch.io. You'll actually get your money's worth. Anyway, I highly doubt anyone is still getting copyright fees or anything from this game. Either way, I'd only recommend it if you haven't played it, but are nostalgic for something for this period of gaming, and are looking for a relatively casual experience. Until next time, this has been Stormdog.
Hey, thank you for watching. The show's going downhill really fast, and we just want to thank our $4 patrons who are on the screen now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.